Good morning and welcome to Open Source Workplace interview series. I'm here this morning. I'm in New York at 5 a.m. I have Toby Morris in London, a design specialist. And obviously part of this interview series, what we want to try and do is bring expert service providers who are on Open Source Workplace to you and allow you to interview and see and meet and greet them and learn a little bit about them. And this morning, as I said, we're joined in London with Toby Morris. So Toby, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, hi Steve. Thanks for inviting me on the series. My name's Toby. I work in London for a design and build organisation. So we create workplaces for organisations across the UK, from companies with 10 employees to companies with 500. And I guess my key role in the industry is essentially to work with the clients to deliver offices for their employees and make them, last the tenure of the lease for the clients and sort of bring about all the organisational changes which the company wants. Some clients are easy, some clients are hard. I think the journey which I experience with clients is to help them through that process, always working within the budget they have. But I think, the employees are always at the heart of all decisions. So, yeah, it's a fun job, very challenging, long hours, but no, I really enjoy it.
Good. No. I've had the pleasure of sort of interacting with you over the last 6 months, and you and the team. It's fun. It's a great experience. It's always great to talk to you, learn a lot, and yeah, very engaging. So obviously, what I found interesting about when we started chatting was, you didn't start your career with design in mind, and I was very intrigued about how you got to where you are. I was wondering if you want to quickly give the audience a sort of quick overview of how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, no, it's a strange one. I didn't leave university with aspirations to move into office design, but I'm glad I did. Essentially, I started off working for ExxonMobil in London in their gas trading division. Fortunate, fantastic company, spent 7 great years there, traveling the world on all different assignments, but came to a point when I turned 30 and realized I want a bit more, and I think it was more personality. I'm more creative, lots of energy. And I found being stuck behind a desk for sort of 10, 11 hours a day wasn't what I wanted to do for the rest of my career. So now I took the chance to join a friend's startup in office design. ExxonMobil were fantastic, and they offered me a back door if things didn't work out for a period of 12 months. And so I had a bit of comfort there, but I never really looked back. And I think the beauty with design and build and office design in general is it's really how hard you work, the network you build, and how you work with clients. The world's your oyster. And I think I'm fortunate now to work at AIS Workplace, which is one of the leading companies in the UK within the sector. But I feel I'm in a place now where it suits my personality. I love meeting new clients. I love working with big teams across the UK. And every day is different. And I think that's really important for people to remember when you're looking at your career. And if you're not happy, if you're bored and you've got the opportunity to take a risk, take your time to make it. But I think when you look back at 65, you're going to rue the decisions you don't make versus the ones you do make. And I've been fortunate that it's worked. But yeah, it's a great sector to be in.
No, it's great. And that point you make about, if you're not happy, try and do something different. And, obviously what I'm trying to do here at Open Source is not that I'm unhappy in what I do. I love what I do every day. I'm very fortunate with that, like yourself. But obviously I have aspirations to sort of produce and do this thing with Open Source. So, yeah. And again, thank you for your time. And again, I always find it really fascinating from a finance background, you as a trader or whatever, however you wanted to sort of phrase it, it's really interesting. And I think, I don't know about you, is there similarities in the role personality-wise from what you did with Exxon to what you do today that actually surprise you of your personality and how the traits come through and why you think you're successful and were so successful at both?
I think yes. I think in the role I do today, you need to listen. It's really important. I think every client we work with is different. Last year, I was fortunate enough to work with sort of 30 clients, 30 different projects. Everyone's completely different, from banking, from legal, from marketing, advertising. Everyone's different. I think the common thread is there's a move or there's an opportunity to change what they do for their staff. And I think the transferable skills are an appetite to learn every day, work hard. But I think also the key thing which I found, which I guess is a broad synergy on the experience I had at Exxon to where I am today, is essentially, can you work with people, and do you like collaborating. It's a keen discussion in office design and companies across the world in terms of how you can improve collaboration. But in my role, I've got 15 people I work with every single day in our team, from designers, project managers, guys who cost jobs, workplace consultants, strategists, and you bring them all together in different ways to suit every independent client. And I think the grounding ExxonMobil, and Exxon could be any established business, but the grounding and training you get in terms of how you market yourself, I think has stayed with me. But equally, it's the ability to sort of work in different ways. And in office design, you're a bit of a chameleon where, you know, you could be working with an advertising agency one day where they want beanbags in meeting rooms and swings, to working with a leading law firm where it's all about acoustics and privacy. So you need to be interchangeable in how you sort of sell yourself to clients. But no, yeah, it's a case of doing what you're good at and learning every day.
So with those diverse requirements that clients come to you with, right? What are the key questions that they can ask you so that they get a better answer and response? Because obviously, you know, a lot of people who watch this are those who actually sit in those rooms and, you know, one side of the table or not. But what's the key question that you think that a client should ask someone like yourself to really see through what you can do and what you are unable to do?
Yeah, I think key questions happy when clients ask, if they have an understanding of timing on their side. So if there's a project coming up or a requirement they need to fulfill, what's the timings? When do they need to make decisions by? I find I'm very surprised every day how much time clients allow. Normally it's not enough, and it's normally a reaction at the end when everything goes into a rush. The best clients are prepared. So get an understanding from me and say, Toby, this is our requirement. This is how much time we have. What should I be thinking of now? Budget's the key one. So in our sector, you can design an office with any budget you have. Have a clear understanding of what you want to spend. Really important. And it's not for companies like ours to spend every penny of that budget, but essentially to let you know what you can expect to have and set a realistic expectation for you as a client. I think in case of the market and this sort of forum, it's who in the other aspects of the sector can help the client at that point. So whether it's commercial agents, project managers, workplace consultants, law firms, you know, I can advise you to speak with relevant people in different areas to help you at this journey. I also ask as many questions as you can because it's free. Learn as much as you can. But also for every client, having internal teams set up early. So the key stakeholder teams for any client, if that's established early, everyone has a role, decisions are made a lot quicker, and you don't redo conversations you've had months before. So planning's key, get the finances approved, and then work with suppliers who you can trust early. And the process then is really easy. The projects which are less successful are when clients sort of make no decisions up front, and then it's a bit more reactive all the way through. And there's normally overspend, a bit more confusion in that respect. So use the time when you've got it and work backwards.
What do you think is the optimal time for that team to be established? Say from when they want to go live, where do you think you see that success? Is there like a line you would draw on the sand and go beyond this point? Actually, you run a risk. What do you think is the optimal time for the optimal result that client wants?
Yeah, I think if I use an average client of ours, an average client of us would be around 100 people. So that'd be 10,000 square foot, 1,000 square meters, that sort of size. So that client is established. They've obviously been going a number of years. They're good in their sector and they're probably growing. So for those clients, they normally plan a year ahead. So they will look ahead to their lease expiry in their current property, work backwards from a year. That's the time when they should be sitting down to have the first conversations, because finding an office can take anything from a week to 3 months. It really depends on how lucky you get and how you can negotiate with any landlord you deal with. So let's plan for 2 or 3 months finding the property. You then want to sort of meet a few people in the market who can help you along the journey, whether it's design and build, external project managers. That process also takes around 2 months. The physical build of a 10,000 square foot property is going to take you anywhere between 8 and 12 weeks. So you can quickly see how the year from January to December can squeeze. So a year would be optimal. I think as you start going up to the big corporations, so 200 to 500 people, minimum 18 months, because it's finding the property is so important, because you can spend the next 10 or 20 years in that building. And if you get that wrong, all the other decisions have to suit and squeeze into that facility. So 2 years if you're over 200 people, 18 months. but no, we deal with companies of 20 people and they can move in 3 months. So the bigger you are, the longer you should plan.
No, that's great context. There really is. And sort of a follow-up to that. So do you find clients benefit whenever they engage with yourself during their lease search and take you along on that journey? Do you find you get a better result? You're able to guide your client better?
I think so. I think clients will always partner with a company in the initial sort of scoping and selection exercise. Whether that company goes on to work with them at the end is something to be discussed at that point. But I think partnering with a professional company to help them, and we call it test fit. So if you're looking at 3 buildings, we normally will take your requirements and we'll design it in each building. We'll show you how efficient the planning can be based on the building makeup, the facilities, the welfare, and everything like that. And really we'll show you as a client how hard you can use the real estate for your needs. And we'll hopefully give you the opportunity to shortlist down from maybe 5 buildings to 2. We then also can overlay costs of how much you would expect to cost to fit out each property based on your requirements. And hopefully then at least you can make an informed decision when you decide internally of what's good best for you, is you can say, well, actually guys, it's the same building, it's the same rent, but this building actually works a lot better for us because we're a tech business and we're all about giving the staff the natural windows and giving them light. That's important to us. Or you could say, well, actually this building has facilities which we could benefit because it's in the financial district and that's where we need to be because our clients are there. So we try and give as much information as we can. We try and help your due diligence process, but essentially client always rules the day. But I think as much information as you can have, it's only going to benefit you.
No, it's totally agree. It's good advice. And obviously you talked about the different buildings in London. Having been in London recently and toured a number of the buildings, I have to say I was blown away when I saw the product that is coming online. You know, I did a search 18 months ago, probably now, in New York. So we were looking at the modern buildings, the new buildings that are going up in New York City. Shortly thereafter, I went and had a look at buildings in San Francisco. And then I went to London, and London's fantastic, man. The infrastructure, the buildings, the quality, they're almost building these ecosystems within their buildings and infrastructure. It's phenomenal. So what's it like to work in those buildings? What have you seen the key benefits when it comes to design, benefits to clients, as opposed to sort of going into one of these newer buildings, as opposed to one of the, I want to say legacy buildings, just the old structure that's sort of in London? From a design perspective, what sort of, one, from you perspective, do you find one is a benefit, but also 2 is a benefit to a client in the way one they choose?
No, you're right. I think London reminds me of Dubai about 10 years ago. You can't move for a crane at the moment. I think the good thing about London in the last 3 years is huge development in areas in the city. Specifically, you've got what was a skyline 10 years ago. We now have lots of fantastic buildings like the Shard and marquee sort of skyscrapers. But I think the good news with those buildings is the footprint they occupy within the city is so small for the square footage they can build up. You know, some of these buildings are 55 floors, each floor plate being around 35,000 square feet. So it's a really highly density space to be able to occupy for clients. I think the main benefit with today's buildings, and whether it's in London or globally, I think it's lots of things around the lighting. So the movement in the last 5-10 years to LED lighting has really helped lift the lux levels that staff benefit from it at desk level. So you're going from what was 200 lux at a desk to sort of 300 to 500. So the feeling of being outside and being in natural light, we can mimic it and you know, get it into the design where staff feel like they're outside and in, and that helps energy, motivation. It helps people at 4 in the afternoon not feel tired. So lighting's greatly improved, and that's a sort of base requirement now in any building. So LED lighting's the one which has really helped move. And in the mechanical, so in the air conditioning and ventilation, the base infrastructure going into these buildings now is a step above what it was 10 years ago. So in terms of ventilation rates into the office, it's hugely improved. So again, you're not having to sort of breathe in yesterday's air and share it amongst your colleagues. It's a lot more efficient, and I think it really helps the well-being of staff. So if you think about coming into work and wanting to feel energized, the new properties are offering you that. And I think from a design point of view, where we sit, most floor plates now are open plan. So you haven't got fixed walls that you do in the legacy buildings in London. There's a huge amount of property in the square mile, which is gorgeous buildings, a lot of them over 200 years old, and it's difficult with planning, and the government have lots of regulations of what you can and can't do. But the new buildings, the key benefits, they're also, the developers are also putting in facilities within the buildings like gyms, restaurants, business suites, meeting room lounges. So tenants can take their space, but also when they need to use other facilities, they don't have to be walking across town. Their staff can benefit just by going up and down the escalators, and you know, and it's good for the companies because their staff stay on site even when they're working out.
Yeah, no, it is good. It is good. And we could go into all those different benefits and amenities that they're providing and the different things. But as I said, I was blown away, and I loved it. I really, really did. And I can't wait to see a lot of the final products in a few years. But you're absolutely right. I remember just walking around, it's just crane, you know. And
if you go on Google and type in the White Collar Factory, this is an old street. They've even got a running track on the top floor. Open air running track, and staff will be using it daily to go and sort of get 5K in at lunchtime, and it's unique. Why not?
No, it is. And I mean, I lived in London for 6 years. I left London in 2006, and the congestion charge was just coming in basically where, you know, no traffic come into central London, and you're kind of like, well, that's going to be a challenge for individuals. But then whenever I go back 10 years later and you see the amount of people running, cycling, out and about in the city, and because of that, you know, and then the government obviously brought in the, you know, buy a bike or a contribution towards a bike. So everyone got bikes. Yeah. And you see the amount of people out and about. It's fantastic. I loved the vibe in the city. I really did. So if I had to put your hand on the fire, what's your favorite building? If you don't feel you can say that because of you know, what you do and you interact with all these different landlords, you can decline if you want. But if you had a favorite, what would you say? You just said architecturally.
I get asked this question daily. Hands down for me, number one building in the world for me is St Paul's Cathedral. Luckily, no companies can move in there, but we're fortunate enough to be based in St Paul's. So daily, I walk past St Paul's. You know, it's been built over 300 years, and it still looks fantastic today. And on a sunny day, you can sit in the square and have a drink in one of the local establishments. And it's a fantastic building, and it still looks great. Survived a couple of world wars. Yeah, it's still going strong. And there's always about 1 million tourists outside every day that you have to sort of swerve around. But it's a great building to look at every day.
Well done in swerving that question, mate. Well done. Well done. Shows your tenacity, right? And your ability to be agile. I love it. So, I mean, obviously we talked about the sort of clients that you've represented in your buildings and so on and so forth, and what you've actually done as an organization, you personally. What personally to you has been the project that's sort of given you, fulfilled you the most excitement, joy, pleasure in supporting more?
I think there's a few projects I've worked on over the years. Some are fantastic, some have been award winners. There's one project where, as a business and as a person, we've learned the most. And if you were to ask anyone in our business, which project are we most proud of, is for a job we did last year for Arthritis Research. So they're a leading charity in the sort of sector, looking at sort of, you know, people with arthritis and who are less mobile than others. And we were approached a year ago to sort of tender for their project. So we're up against the big guys, and normally it's best price, best design wins. We decided our approach would be something completely different. So our approach was all around the staff. So what we thought about when we were designing the space was who would be using the space, number one. So in terms of the staff and the visitors, it's very much different from any other company we've worked with. The output from it, in terms of how we took the design from concept through to completion, we did it all around accessibility. So what we wanted was anyone who would come into the space would be able to navigate around the space in their own way. So we designed it for the visually impaired. So we put in low-level LED lighting, track lighting, so people could look down and know where to go. We ensured all surfaces within the building were non-reflective. So there's no white surfaces in the office, apart from a few, to essentially stop glare back into people's eyes. We put hearing loops in for people with impairments to hearing. We put in more acoustic baffling in this office than you've ever seen. But again, it was to stop the reverberation of noise, which was giving or would give these people discomfort in the office. And then people with sort of mobility concerns, we put in a special flooring, so a woven vinyl floor, which was the only product which is anti-static for wheelchairs. Again, thinking around the flooring, we could put in 1,000 different types of flooring, but to think through it properly, was who would be using the space. And the furniture solution is the most varied out of any office we've done. So we've got a huge proportion of sit-stand desking, which is a big investment for arthritis research, but they saw it as a key thing they needed to put in to ensure that anyone can work in a different setting anytime. And then meeting chairs, agile working stations. There's a huge variety of products to basically suit everyone. And inclusivity and accessibility was arthritis research's sort of number one objective. We were shortlisted for best office design last year, came third. A good third because we were up against some stiff competition, but it was more of the learnings. And whenever we take clients around an office, whenever they go around arthritis research's office, they always come out and they take some nuggets away for their own office. And even if it's the wellness and the employee-centric sort of notion of the design is where most clients take away. But for me personally, yeah, it's fantastic. It was probably the nicest client you could ever work with. And if you want to go to an office any time of the day and it's immaculate, that's the office. So they're very house proud of it. And even 18 months later, they sort of treat it like a show home. But it's because the staff love working there.
That's great. That's great. And sort of what lessons has it changed your approach to how you service other clients on the back of what you did for arthritis research in your approach, in your delivery, or how you even, advise clients?
I think it has, definitely. I think that the key thing that we've learned is you can't get everything right first time. So it was a journey for us as a business as well. And what we did when we were appointed by arthritis research, we saw it as more of a client journey where a client's more for life than just for a one-off sort of transaction. So even our design at the time we thought was fantastic. When people move into the space and use the space, we strongly realised that the acoustics in certain areas wasn't as good as we thought it would be. So it was about addressing that sort of post-completion. So in terms of our learning, it's to say, guys, before you move into the space and start moving and lifting and working in different rooms, we don't know how it's going to react. So it was more of a sort of the phase 2, day 2 type activities where the design wasn't finished when we finished the original job. It sort of carried through to the first sort of 3 or 4 months. And now we think it's a fantastic complete office, but it's the same when you complete a job, it's to sort of stay close to the client to make sure it works for them in the first 3 months. I think that's a good road testing period. And it's just addressing and fine tuning. And that's the key learning for us is you need to be close to the client, even when you've finished, to make sure that if there's any issues that you can rectify, you do it quickly.
That is great. That's great. So Toby, we're sort of running out of time here. Is there anything else that you want to share, or you want the audience to be aware of you and what you're capable of?
I think, good question. I think it's a bit on the spot. I think my advice to anyone watching would be, if you're looking at a project, whether you're a decision maker or whether you're just interested, I think workplace design, whether it's for a move or for a minor refurbishment, I think Google is your friend. Pinterest, I think what really helps us and me as a person, if a client has a slight understanding or idea of what they're after, spend time researching. Lots of fantastic companies have spent millions of pounds doing lots of projects and lots of research papers. Do some homework in the early days, and I think where I can assist, it would be to be a sounding board. So the people that I know in the industry, the advice I can give is for free. Guys, this whole forum is to sort of help everyone. And I think whether it's to give you ideas of budget, so if you had an idea of what you would look to achieve, I can give you an idea of what it would cost. And it wouldn't be for me saying it, it'd be a market rate of what the market would sort of look to charge. London, if it's specifically in the London market of moving offices, well, I could put you in touch with thousands of people. I can even send you market reports and give you an idea of how Mayfair is fantastic, but it's twice the price of the city. But yeah, it's a case of sharing information. And, when I started out, I'd fortunate enough to have a few people who really gave me a stepping stone. And I'd like to sort of share back and help as much as I can.
So actually another question just popped into my head. So I know I was going to let you go there, but as quickly as we can, Brexit, what impact have you seen in the real estate industry and the construction and what you're doing? Do you see concern? Do you see worries? We do, I suppose. Brexit is obviously, for most people in London and the UK now, it's a topic which you just don't want to hear any more about. You can't move in the street without someone mentioning Brexit. I wish I'd trademarked it 10 years ago. What are the challenges that we found? I think, firstly, clients are or have been cautious over the last 12 months. So big corporates with big moves coming up,
the market found a big slow or pause in terms of decision making. So normally in our sector, there's constant churn, constant equal numbers of big corporates moving. And I think they decided to pause beginning of last year to sort of see where things would turn out. Where we are today, near the end of March, we're in the same position. So companies have, guys, we've got to get on with it. We've got to move and make decisions. But for us, and for how I've sort of felt it, I think over the last sort of 6 months, clients are asking the question more when it comes to the contract. So guys, AIS or whoever you partner with, what are the risks that we need to be thinking about? And for us, it would be suppliers. So if you're looking at Italian furniture manufacturers and your project starts in September 2019, can we guarantee that's going to turn up on time at the same price? Yeah, and would you put your name to it and sign off on that? So it's a case of, for us, we're looking more at UK suppliers for the time being. We're advising clients to sort of stay within what we know we can deliver for the price we commit to. But no, all the liability around what happens outside of Europe is gentle steps. But I think how we and I position that is to say, well, let's try and de-risk ourselves today for the next 6 months and use more UK-based manufacturers and suppliers. And then if things work out for the best, it's back to business as usual. But personally, there hasn't been much change. People still move. People will still move into the best buildings, and they still want the best for their staff. And whatever happens with Brexit, I think we're going to deal with when we know more.
No, it's great. It's a great answer, Toby. So look, I want to thank you, Toby, for giving us your time this morning. I want to appreciate your insights. And as I said, I've got to know you over the last 6 months, and you and your team, you're a fun group. I won't talk about your soccer team or football team, but that's a different conversation. But no, thank you. And for anyone who's watching, check out the link below. We'll have a link to Toby's open source workplace profile page. There you'll be able to connect with him through a phone, email, or website, or there's a little quote button. You can send him a little quote and see what his pricing is for your type of work. But in essence, and if you've used Toby before, rate, review him and give your honest feedback so that other members of open source workplace can actually truly see what Toby is. So again, look, thank you, and we'll speak to you again soon. Take care. Thanks.
Yeah. Bye.